Welcome to the Growth Xperts Podcast. I'm your host, Derek Colin. In today's episode, we have a special guest. His name is Chris Mader. He is the founder and CEO of MTA Consultancy. How are you doing today, Chris?
I'm doing awesome, Derek. Thanks for having me on. I'm really excited to be here.
Pleasure. So can you tell us about, MTA Consultancy? How does your role fit into the bigger picture?
Yeah, you bet. About 3 years ago, I was in corporate America for 27 years, helping companies grow and scale as an operator. And I've always had a passion for coaching, and kind of akin to my college baseball coach. I always made a running joke that when I grow up, I want to be a college baseball coach. And then I saw what it paid. And so I ended up finding my way into executive coaching. And I find that any type of coaching, whether it's sports and business, it's the same. But 3 years ago, I started helping founders, owners, business owners just grow and scale their companies. And I think anybody that's out there that's listening to this knows that it's lonely at the top. And I've been in that seat. When you're reporting to a board, or you have a boss, or you have a team, it's hard to vent. It's hard to have idea creation and somebody to bounce ideas off of. So for me, because I've been in companies as little as $1 million, all the way to literally like 1.4 billion, I've seen a lot, and there's a lot of holes I've been stuck in, and there's a lot of holes I can get people unstuck from. So I really, I started 3 years ago on my own as kind of solopreneur. My company's growing and scaling, and I really love what I do.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Very cool, man. So I guess it sounds like you might be busy, things keeping you busy over there. What does a typical day look like for you?
Well, I've been, I actually also hired a coach in Dan Martell, and I read his book, Buy Back Your Time. And so as a solopreneur, I do want to grow and scale my company. And even though I know all the levers, everybody needs a coach. And so I've now hired an executive assistant. I've hired a delivery director. So I'm trying to focus my time more on customer facing activities, whether it's, actual coaching engagements, advisory engagements, leadership team training engagements, things like that. So that my back office can kind of manage, everything else behind me. So yeah, I want to spend my time. My boss once said, God, this is like 30 years ago. He said, don't count pencils. And what he meant by that was the best use of your time is in front of your customers or in front of your people.
Yeah. The best use of your time is in front of your customers and in front of your people. Is that what you said?
Yeah, in front of your internal employees as well. Exactly. Yeah.
Awesome. Dan Martell, who is that for those who don't know who he is?
Yeah, so he's also an entrepreneur that a long time ago was building SaaS companies and software companies. And he found that he started to build a number of companies. He owns like 20 AI companies now. He's very AI forward. And looking for a coach, when I was looking for a coach, I was trying to become more AI forward, say 6 months ago, and I knew Dan was good at that. And his book, Buy Back Your Time, is really targets entrepreneurs, actually the people that I end up coaching a lot of times, on how you can quote unquote buy back your time. He has something called the buyback rate. So as an example, let's say you're a CEO, you make, let's just make up a number, $300,000 a year. You're worth $150 an hour. If you're doing a task that's less than a quarter of that, let's call it $40 an hour. Like if you're doing a $40 an hour task, you need to hire somebody for that, outsource it, give it to AI, something. The people that make $150 an hour should not be doing $40 an hour tasks. And so I was just very aligned to how he operated and how he coached. And I've just, it's been great being part of his program for 6 months because I've learned a lot. I'm now in my mid 50s and I still take the approach. I can learn something every day. And I've learned a lot the last 6 months with Dan.
That's really cool. Yeah. It sounds like Dan is kind of an innovator in the marketplace right now, and especially with all those AI companies. And he's definitely helping you out in terms of your operations and making sure that you're running efficiently. So I would assume there's some major shifts going on right now in the industry. What major shifts are you currently seeing right now?
Yeah, I do think AI is the obvious answer, but the question is how, right? So when you think about change, and I do this when I work with companies I engage with, there's 4 types of people with change: innovators, early adopters, fence sitters, and laggards. And when I talk to leaders, I just say, look, with things like AI, you pretty much need to become an innovator, early adopter pretty fast here, because if you wait too long, it's going to pass you by. And then you listen to like an Elon Musk on a Joe Rogan podcast a year ago saying, if you're not adopting AI by 2028, 2029, you're out of business in 2030. That's kind of all I need to hear to say, okay, well, what do I need to do? Now the question becomes like how and how much. And I always say with coaching, it's kind of like a bottle of Advil. When it comes to change, just change 1 or 2 things. Don't take the whole bottle. And so I don't care whatever change in your business it is, whether it's you're changing a hiring process or you're thinking about, going to market, like just change 1 or 2 things. Don't change everything. So with AI, I say just pick 1 or 2 tasks that you want to automate and make your life easier, and maybe do that first and then do the next 2. Don't try to do 20 at once.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's trying to do multiple different types of AIs, but then, you have use case for whether it's Gemini or Claude or Perplexity or Grok. I mean, there's many different types of learning language models that are out there. And then you have your proprietary, AI that's custom built, for certain industries. So I guess the next question is, how has this trend really impacted your business or growth strategy?
Yeah. And to your point, with all the different tools, every tool, like anything, has a strength. Like every tool is good at certain things. Like Gemini's great for images, and Claude's great for being a thought partner, and Manus is great for AI agents, right? So there's different ways you can view it. But so for me, it's like it's picking the right one, first of all, and then not overdoing it. You talked about the custom stuff. Like that's the other key piece of it
Mhm.
is I created my own like custom coach, and the intention was I was going to go to market, and I have gone to market actually. I have a live. It's called Coach Made AI. And
Mhm.
so for people that maybe can't afford my hourly rate, I'm like, hey, you want my frameworks? Just log in for $40 a month and take Coach Made AI, and I'll help you out. And
Yeah.
it's based on my exact frameworks. And so I just think it's interesting how people are kind of resisting AI and different things. And I laugh, like Dan Martell says this. He's like, if you're worried about security, he goes, you understand that like Google and Microsoft, these companies have much better security than you'll ever have in your house and your Wi-Fi. So,
Yeah.
you really shouldn't be worried so much about that stuff. And I think it's, people just need to get on board as quick as possible because it's gonna change the world.
Awesome, man. Very cool. So, what type of companies or, industries are you primarily focused on when it comes to MTA consultancy?
Yeah, I find that my ICP is 10 to $30 million companies looking to grow and scale. I've
Mhm.
been very lucky, Derek, where I wrote a book called Make the Adjustment a few years ago, and I've had the opportunity to do a couple keynotes and get on stages. And I've been very grateful to close a few engagements from that. And what's funny is it's any business. Like my
Mm.
client roster, I came from professional staffing, HR services, technology, engineering, healthcare years ago, right? So I thought that would be my ICP. If you look at my current client roster, it's hair salons, it's HVAC companies, algorithm investment companies,
Yeah.
roofing companies. I mean, it's literally so all over the map because the levers, Derek, as you know, are all the same. It's people, it's process, it's technology. And I'm
Yeah.
also an EOS implementer. So what I'm finding is that founders come to me because they don't always have a framework, right? Use like the hair salons. Expert in building hair salons, he goes from 1 to 2 to 12 to 18 hair salons, but he
Mhm.
doesn't really have a repeatable process or a standard operating rhythm. And so I come as an implementer and say, okay, well, we can fix that, right? And start to standardize some things and bring some, bring some stability to the business and start growing your leadership team because
Mm.
the founder at that 10 to $30 million level is usually the bottleneck. And if
Mhm.
they're open to changing the way they think about their business, it
Yeah.
unlocks a ton of growth because now they can multiply themselves from as one leader to 20 leaders and get the work done through their people, and they're not the one doing the work.
Ah, interesting. And what would be the age of some of these companies? You mentioned, there's a hair salon, for example, and there's 18 and it's founder led, but there's some bottlenecks there. Is there a typical age, if you're allowed to say, in terms of, how old these founders are?
Yeah. Well, I mean, typically the businesses themselves are starting to mature. If you look at an age group on average, it's like 35 to 55. It's all people
Mm.
that they were working in their 20s, they had some success, they were working for somebody else, they went on their own, and then all of a sudden they find themselves running a company, but they get to a place of like 1 million, 3 million, 5 million, and they get stuck because they
Mm.
just didn't know what to do next, right? They've only seen what they've seen. And that's kind of where I step in and have fun. I'm like, oh, you're at 10 million. I've seen 10 million. Let me tell you what's next. And they're just like, oh, you already have the answer. I'm like, yeah, well, I don't have all the answers. It's just, like I said, I've been stuck in a lot of the holes before. And I know the levers to pull and the way to get out.
Yeah. So when you go into these companies from, operational perspective, are they giving you access, to their financials, to pretty much everything? Is the door wide open? And when you go in there from a corporate governance perspective, what are you looking at to identify first or second?
Such a great question. Well, it's funny you say that. I'm going to take a step back and I'm going to answer your question. I found that I had engagements before. If I
Mhm.
came at like the director VP level, not the C suite, it
Yeah.
never always worked perfectly. And so now I do come in at that owner, founder, C suite level because to your point, I'll sign an NDA and then I want everything. I want full financial analysis. I want your dashboards. I want reporting. I want your current business plan. Like we need all of it. because I kind of assess that in the first 90 days, really the first 30 days, and then start to make some suggestions on, hey, we might want to start thinking about this or that, right? Whether it's another acquisition, whether it's, hey, let's grow organically. But in the EOS framework, one of the first questions we ask is, what's the 10-year vision? And a 10-year vision is, hey, just kind of whiteboard it. You're doing $10 million now. Where do you think you could be in 10 years? 50 million, 100 million, and that's their North Star. And then we start to kind of, you build the business plan backwards from that. And I also get a chuckle that a lot of these founders never even thought about 10 years out. They're just trying to block and tackle for like the next week, the next month, the next year, get cash flow going. And I'm like, well, yeah, we'll solve for that, but we should be looking a little bit more forward so we can build towards that.
Yeah, definitely. So when you're helping them scale and you're looking at these bottlenecks, what's the agenda? Are some of them looking to exit? Do you help with exit planning? Can you describe or kind of give us some, or elaborate on that, give us some insight?
Yeah, I mean, I have a framework called the founder's exit, because most of the people I'm talking to do want to exit. Now, it could be an exit to a PE firm. It could be an exit to, they hand it off to their kids or their family. But most people don't want to work, quote unquote, forever. So we do start to talk pretty early about, okay, well, what would that look like? Now, I've also have a couple clients, Derek, that say, well, Chris, I have no intention of selling. Like, I love what I do. And what I say to them is, hey, that's great. Like, you have no intention of selling, but let's do this. Let's build your business as if you were going to sell it. Yeah. Because that just gives you a ton of flexibility down the road. If you want to, great. And if you don't want to, it runs itself. Like, one of the jokes I have, Derek, with the people I work with is, if you're a founder CEO, and usually they're super busy, they're buried, right? They're a little stressed out. I'll say, envision a world in maybe 2 or 3 years where you're bored and they can't even get there. I'm like, my goal for you is to build your people, build your processes, build your systems to a point that you walk into work one day at 9 o'clock, and by 10 o'clock, you've identified your board. Like, everything works. Like, that's the goal. And they look at me like, yeah, that's never going to happen. I'm like, no, it's going, if you work with me, it's going to happen, because it happens all the time for the people I work with. Yeah. And so that should be the goal of these people, is not to work themselves into the ground. It's like, look, I get working hard. I get doing what you got to do. Yeah. But you got to start thinking more about, well, how do I get out of the day-to-day, let my people do the blocking and tackling, and I can be focused on more strategic work.
Yeah, smart, very smart. I've personally spoken with some founders where they're like, this is my baby, this company, this is the industry I love, and they're very passionate about their work. And they say, oh, I'm never going to probably exit, and we'd be working forever. And the company's going to run, beyond me. And most cases where they say, when they start thinking strategically, and they're like, well, if my company was to go from $1 million to $2 million or $8 million per year, it might be an option.
Correct. Yeah. Well, and this isn't like a commercial for EOS. Like, there's lots of great business frameworks. The reason I'm an EOS simpler, because I did it in corporate America successfully and I became an implementer. The other reason I like it is it starts to split the roles up, visionary and integrator. And so when I talk to founders, right, in theory, they're typically the visionary. They have the ideas, they have the relationships, they're driving the business forward. They shouldn't be. Yeah. Before
you continue, can you explain to the audience EOS? Can you break that down?
Yeah, of course. I'll take a step back. Sorry to jump ahead. Yeah. So Entrepreneurial Operating System was a book written by, it's actually a framework by Gino Wickman. He wrote a book called Traction. And many years ago, he identified the 6 components in a business that, no matter the industry you're in, are the most important components of a business to move the business forward. Things like people, issues, goals, business planning, things of that nature. So it's a framework that we kind of lay onto any business. And when I talk to business owners, they see the framework. They're like, that's great. I want to run it. I'm like, I'm glad you want to run it, but I actually don't want you to run it. I want the integrator to run it. Like, what's that? And so there's roles. So I'm an implementer, right? So think about me. I'm like air traffic control. The visionary is the person that, comes up with the plans for the plane and like how we're going to fly the plane and all that stuff. But then the integrator is the one who actually flies the plane day to day, week to week, month to month, driving the business forward, holding people accountable. And what I find is most of the engagements I get into, the owner is doing both jobs. I'm like, you can't be the visionary and the integrator. You have to do one or the other. And most of them pick visionary because they want to be focused on the next thing, the next acquisition, the next business, the next idea. And you want somebody else running your business day to day. And just that concept alone sells them on the fact of like, oh, hold on, I don't have to do all of the day to day. I'm like, no, absolutely not. You need somebody else to execute your vision for you. To your point, Derek, like other people can execute your vision. I don't think, as much as Elon Musk is involved, I don't think his hands were on the rocket that just went to the moon, right? It's like he has a team that does that, right?
Yeah. Awesome, man. So yeah, I think before I had cut you off, you were talking about, how founders kind of realize that, hey, this might be a possibility. If I go from 1-2 million to 8 million EBITDA, maybe I should exit at some point.
Right. Yeah. Well, when they see the dollar signs, to your point, and you're familiar with multiples and things, it depends on the industry that you're in. But
Mhm.
when I get into these engagements, I'm glad you mentioned that. The levers, like revenue is a vanity number. I've had people say, Chris, I run a $15 million business. I'm like, that's cool.
Mhm.
I'm like, what's your profitability? Yeah, we don't make a profit. I'm like, okay, well, that's rough, right? So you have EBITDA, so you have, revenue, gross profit, EBITDA. And so I start to look at the levers of like, okay, revenue is fine, but what's the gross profit dollars? Like, what are your margins on what you're selling, whether it's products or services? And then ultimately, what's your operating cost to get to the bottom line contribution? Because the value in your business, as you know, resides on that EBITDA line. And what I found, a really good just industry standard in general is 10%. For every dollar you bill, ideally 10 cents is going to the bottom line at the end of the month, end of the year. And so it depends on the industry. It could be as low as 2%, it could be as high as 15%. It just depends. What I learned in scaling businesses around EBITDA is that typically speaking, and I know there's lots of different industries that might listen to your podcast, but if you're running at like 12 to 15% EBITDA, you're really profitable, but your business is like stressed. You have money to spend. So depending on what stage you're at, if you're looking to exit, like your stage 1, stage 2 with 15% EBITDA, people listening, I'm like, reinvest in your business. You're not ready for a sale. Like you have money to spend, you should be spending it. And conversely, I have companies at 2 to 3% EBITDA, and I'm like, all right, you're spending too much. Like we have either too much people, too much technology, we need some governance. Like we need to kind of dial this because 2% EBITDA isn't sustainable. So anything from 6, 8, 10%, pretty healthy number, but I always try to keep my clients give or take around 10% because I find that to be a healthy balance of, cash flow as well as, reinvesting back into their business.
Interesting. Very cool, man. Sounds like you really know your stuff. So
Again, I've been around the block, man. I don't look old, like I said, mid 50s, but it is funny. It's just my old boss. I had a boss named Bob. He was awesome. And I found him to be he was a great boss to me, a great coach and mentor. And he said the same thing that I'll say to you. It's like, I don't claim to be the smartest person. I've just seen a lot. And I think I have the ability to retain information really well. There's a book called StrengthsFinder. And, one of my strengths is called ideation. When I see a good idea, I can connect the dots from one industry to the other. So like an idea that works in hair salons, they actually can work in algorithm investing. It's wild how I can put those things together. But it's definitely a skill set I think it's great for a coach to have because we find ourselves, every coaching call I get on has pretty much a standard agenda, but half the time the agenda gets derailed based on the founder, based on the business, based on something that happens. So if you can't quote unquote make the adjustment on the fly as a coach and really relate to that founder in the seat that he or she is in, it's hard. Like just being a theorist as a coach, like everything's great on paper until you get into the guts of the business and your best person quits. Right. And now I'm on a coaching call and I wasn't expecting, and Derek calls me. I think we're talking about his P&L today. And instead we're talking about his best person just quit and what's he going to do tomorrow. Right. So it's like, you have to be able to adjust in real time and have been in that situation before. Like, all right, dude, I've seen that before. That's cool. Like it sucks, but there's something we can do about this.
Yeah. What's working well for you right now for MTA Consultancy, and what's been frustrating?
What's been working well is tweaking my ICP. I can tell you that I had an ICP that I thought, ideal client profile, I thought was going to be like 100 to $300 million companies. What I found, because I worked in those types of companies, what I found though is the buying process is long, margins are tighter. And so I think redialing my ICP is really transformed my business. I've seen like a 40% increase in revenue in the last 6 months just because I changed my ICP. So I think that's pretty cool. But the answer of what's a struggle is the same struggle that all of us founders have, is I don't want to be the bottleneck. Like I'm starting to hire people.
Yeah.
And so, my director of operations, even this morning, I was talking to her. She's like, Chris, I saw you run the website today. You're not supposed to be doing that anymore. I'm like, I'm sorry. You're right, Angie. So
Yeah.
I have to eat my own dog food as a coach of like, we can't become the bottleneck. Like we have to like delegate more effectively and not take everything on and things like that. So that's what I would tell you.
Very cool. Awesome. And that's really good advice too, because the last thing you want to do is, like you said, become the bottleneck when you're trying to solve the problems, or not trying when you are solving the problems for, the industries in the ICP.
Right.
So I think we kind of discussed metrics that you're most focused on improving, whether passive or active. What would you want people to know that would take on MTA Consultancy and work with you?
Yeah. I think it's if you're an owner or a founder that has found yourself stuck, like you're working as hard as ever, but the business isn't growing. That's usually signal number one that I could definitely help you. That's number one. Number two would be client that is growing and scaling, but they can feel the pressure of the systems and processes are breaking. They can't like copy and paste, location number one to location number two to location number three. Those are two of the most common use cases I find. And then number three, honestly, it's also, if you just got acquired. So I'm actually a coach with PE firms directly and part of their coaching pool. And I really understand what a new CEO, a CEO that just got acquired, the pressure that they're under with their PE firm, with their board, with their advisor, with their team, like the pressure to grow and scale and have that exit in the next 3 to 5 years. And they need somebody to talk to that's not their board. It's not the PE firm. It's certainly not their spouse. Like they don't want to go home and, what is the running joke, kick the dog, and right, they don't want to do that either, right? They need somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And so those are three really good use cases for me that I've seen really positive results of. The company grows and scales. The owner founder feels better. They start to feel less stress. And that usually happens, honestly, you'll laugh, Derek, within 2 sessions. Honestly, within 1 or 2 coaching sessions, they're already like, I'm already feeling better. So
Awesome. So yeah, I mean, that's really good, especially when you're delivering on productivity, quality, efficiency, etc. And I think you guys are doing really well at MTA Consultancy. So is it just you, or do you have a board, or I think you mentioned director of operations?
yeah, I just promoted my executive assistant into an operations role. My daughter helps with marketing. So it's me and 2 other people. I actually have a supervisory board, kind of a informal supervisory board that has equity in the company, but I'm 100% founder, owner on my own. I started as a solopreneur, Derek. There was a book, I started my company 3 years ago. It was a book called A Company of One. And I had been working for, a global firm for a while. And I was like, I'm tired of being in the grinder. And I think I want to be a company of one. I don't want a boss. I don't want to have to manage people. I just want to kind of do my own thing. And about 2 years into that, I again ate my own dog food. I'm like, well, Chris, like you're not currently running your company to grow it and scale and sell it. And it wasn't like I was thinking I wanted to grow and scale and sell, but I was like, I do want to grow and scale.
Yeah.
And if that's the case, then I don't want to be a company of one anymore. And I do need to go back to hiring people and all those things. So which I've been doing, again, taking my own advice, 1 or 2 at a time. I don't overdo it, but because of the revenue growth, I do see more hiring coming down the pike. And, I have aspirations to grow to 10 million in 10 years. So that's my kind of North Star. And I'm 3 years in, and I feel like I'll see 1 million by 5 years. And so I'm on track for the 10 million in 10 years goal. And AI is going to be a huge part of that as well, by the way. But yeah, I feel like I'm in a really good place in the market. And yeah, I don't view some people have talked about AI like replacing them. AI doesn't replace human connection. AI doesn't replace intuition. Half the clients I talk to, I feel like I'm their business therapist, Derek, half the time. So, AI can't replace that.
Yeah, definitely not. If anything, it can enhance, your career and productivity, especially with back office automation, things like that. Chris, where do you want MTA Consultancy to be in the next 6 to 12 months?
Yeah, 6 to 12 months would be, I want to see increased revenue growth. I will likely, I'm going to have to hire another implementer, EOS implementer, and likely even another back office type resource. I don't know what that looks like just yet, but, I want to replace myself when it comes to back office type work, operations work is like my clients. I want to be out in front of customers. I want to be on stages. I want to be coaching. That's where my highest value is. That's where the thing that brings me the most energy is. It's the thing I'm the best at. So, in the EOS framework, I have quarterly goals. So my 2 big quarterly goals, like in Q2 as an example, are I took an admin day last week and created all of the new standard operating procedures in my company. And my director of operations will basically systematize those in Q2 and automate all of those. I've also dialed my ICP to the point that I have 2 target clients I'm going to win. And so I have like these 2 or 3 quote unquote rocks or goals for the quarter that will propel me to the next quarter. And so I just keep an eye on those goals. I read them 3 times a day to make sure I'm reminding myself that I'm doing, I'm focused on the right tasks that are aligned to those goals.
Affirmations.
And then I'll set new goals in Q3. Yeah.
Yeah. Very cool, man. So you mentioned your goal is, to continue to scale, for the business. If you had a magic wand and you were to fix one thing in your business that was holding you back or slowing you down, what would that one thing be?
Wow, good question. Well, one, if you asked me 3 months ago, was social media, and I outsourced it, so I can't say that one right now. I would say content development. I think there's a lot of custom content that, because it's white glove, I'm still a small company. It's a very personal relationship, so I customize a lot of things for my clients to really get it right. And what I find is there will be days I find myself in a rabbit hole, for an hour or two sometimes, doing some of this content development on my own. And even though AI can do some things to help that, it's still, you need like a human being and the personal touch and context to the conversation. So, when you think about hiring, like I could foresee potentially, whether it's fractional or full-time, but I will likely need somebody to help develop content, training content, EOS content, social media content. I could see that probably be in the next phase in maybe Q3, Q4.
Chris, thank you so much for sharing your insights on the Growth Experts podcast. It was a pleasure to have you here. For those of you who want to check out Chris's website, that is mtaconsultancy.com, mtaconsultancy.com. I'll make sure to put it in the description below. He is also located on LinkedIn, so check out his profile. Chris, thank you so much.
Derek, it was a pleasure. Great conversation, man. Thank you.
Pleasure.